lot of people wanting this information.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome. People are slowly pouring in. I know we all have quite a lot of distractions. Can everyone raise your hand in the camera or chat in the chat box if you can hear us okay? Because we're not using an external mic this time. Okay, good. So
I can hear you. Yep.
Good.
Awesome. And just so everybody knows, you are going to be muted. Once we get to the Q&A section at the end of the training, we'll unmute and we'll allow people to talk. But just so that there's not a lot of background noise, we're going to keep everybody muted and just the speakers are going to be unmuted.
Yeah, so you can type questions in the chat and we'll be fielding questions as we go along. You know, so if there's a question that's pertinent to what we're talking about, we'll jump in, and if not, then we'll save it towards the end. There will definitely be a Q&A opportunity. So just know that your questions will be answered, and we have a lot of data that we're going to be sharing with you. So this will be recorded, so be sure to know that, so that you don't have to necessarily take notes, although, you know, it would be good to take notes, and then we'll also be able to give you access to the slides afterwards.
Yeah.
So we're going to wait a couple of minutes longer to make sure that everyone gets a chance to get on the call who wants to. So we'll just take a few more minutes.
So in the meantime, we just want to introduce, or at least let people know who the panelists are. We'll do more of a formal introduction later. So obviously, you guys know Chelsea and I were the founders of Badass Business Builders.
I'm going to say, obviously, we got some new people here. So go ahead.
It should be obvious because, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, so we are Ari and Chelsea, and we're the founders of Badass Business Builders. So we've been in the Amazon
and SoStock.
And SoStock, which I will get to in a second. We started Badass Business Builders about 4 years ago. We've been in the Amazon business for about 6 years now. It'll actually be 6 years in May. So in that time, you know, we've built a 7-figure business. We've helped hundreds and hundreds of people through consulting and copywriting and things like that through various masterminds. Chelsea started her copywriting business, which is blowing up and is amazing. And then Dan, who's on this call, Dan Fernandez, we met about 2.5 years ago-ish, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, 2 years April.
At an Amazon event, and Dan is Dan the man, as we like to call him. Dan is the man. He is a software developer, and he built one of the largest or most successful influencer, thank you, software is called Thomason, which most Amazon sellers who have been around more than a couple of years will remember that. And we've teamed up with him, and we started SoStock about a year and a half ago, and we're in our second beta and actually just launching it now, just so you know who he is. And then why don't you tell them who Afolabi is?
Yes, of course. So Afolabi, we connected up with Afolabi very recently. Kind of in the process of getting SoStock out there, introducing, you know, people to SoStock. One of our goals with SoStock has been to create strategic relationships, because with SoStock, which is an inventory management software that works very differently from other inventory management softwares, one of the objectives is to be able to solve bugs in your supply chain and solve bugs in your logistics process. So a big part of that is, how do you make sure that you have the right suppliers? How do you make sure that you're getting the right pricing? So we are very interested, we have been very interested in meeting people who have specific skill sets with regards to logistics, negotiating with suppliers, and really understanding the ins and outs of the supply chain, especially with regards to China. So we connected up with a friend of ours, someone who both Dan and I have worked with professionally and also know on a personal level, and that was Norm Farrar. Very highly regarded in not only the Amazon space, but just in the e-commerce space in general. Has worked with a lot of really very successful national brands, has his own brands as well, and you know, has gone to China and things like that. Very, very, like, this is a guy, Norm, who is very highly respected by other big sellers and is sought out for his opinion. So he was the one who told us about Afolabi and introduced us to Afolabi. And, you know, when you listen to Norm when he says something, and he was like, you guys have to meet this guy. He is doing things with sourcing and with supply chain and with shipping that I have not seen anyone do before. And, you know, this is, you know, essentially the introduction that Norm gave to us for Afolabi. So we're like, okay, we have to talk to this guy. Within the first conversation, myself and Dan were both just blown out of our mind by some of the things that he was saying. Yep. So we're like, we definitely need to introduce Afolabi to our community. He has his own sourcing company. He has his own logistics company, and is just extremely smart in the way that he does things differently with sourcing, completely differently than what anyone else is doing. And it's just a very different take and a very different viewpoint. And he has boots on the ground. He has 2 offices in, he has an office in Hong Kong and an office in China. So he has boots on the ground and really knows what's happening there and and understands the economy and the commerce over there. And so can give a prediction, you know, through his 20 years of experience working in this space as to how to really foresee what's going to happen and what's going to be rolling out in the next, you know, several I would say several months to a year.
Awesome. Just a quick housekeeping. What does it mean when Dan is highlighted in yellow? Can you guys see us, or can you see Dan when we're talking? Just comment in the chat box. Just want to make sure that the software is running correctly.
See
okay,
us.
Good. Fair enough. Because for some reason it shows Dan highlighted. Okay.
Yeah.
So just like a quick little, before we get into the actual content, obviously we all know what's going on planet Earth right now. It's pretty freaking crazy. We are absolutely not using scare tactics. We're not trying to use the coronavirus to get attention. The point is everyone's attention is already on that. The media, the government, the CDC is just constantly pummeling you with bad news, and you should be scared, you should be scared, you should be scared. We are trying to present solutions, right? So while everyone else is talking about, you know, you should hunker down and just sit in your house and watch the news all day and be afraid, we're saying, no, let's look at the solutions that are out there. What can we do to out-create this? Because there is going to be a massive economic hit, to say the least.
I would say a shift.
There you go.
Yeah.
So just as a couple of examples of that, I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have seen the email that came out yesterday from Amazon. And it was saying that they're going to not allow new shipments to be created for certain categories until April 5th. So we can get into we have some recommendations on that. We can get into but I just want to let you know that as of this morning, I went in there and I created a shipment, and we're in kitchen and dining. So we sell like little kitchen gadgets, and we were running low. So I created a shipment and sent it into Amazon, no problem. So it's not like this blanket, all categories are shut down and you can't send inventory. I have a thread going in another group where they were talking about, some people said they could, some people they couldn't.
Yeah, so it depends on your product. It depends on the demand. If you're in any sort of, you know, immune vitamins, you're probably good to go.
Yeah, we have a friend that sells vitamin C gummies, and that she's doing very well right now.
Yeah, so kind of all that being said, I think that kind of, you know, more people will trickle in as we go, but I think we're good to
let's jump into it.
Get things started. All right, Afolabi, you want to unmute yourself?
You can unmute him.
Oh, I can ask you to start your video. There we go.
There he is, the man.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being on the call.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
All right. You want me to share my screen?
Yeah. And then so we introduced you. Let me see. I think I am able to pin your video. Spotlight video. There we go. Cool. Okay.
Awesome. Let me also share my screen. Okay.
I did want to make one comment, just kind of let you all know. As part of this whole training, we are going to be laying out a detailed, adjusted order schedule, which we will provide at the end. So we want to make sure that you stay to the end. because we're going to, the order schedule is definitely going to be changing just based on everything that's happening. So Afolabi has created an adjusted order schedule that you should use to plan the rest of your year, really, all the way into the first quarter of 2021. So that will be something that we'll share at the end. So you'll definitely want to check that out.
All right. Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you, Dan. Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here, even though our hearts go out to, everyone, that has been affected by this, the virus. So, they're always in our hopes and prayers that to hope everything would change for good real quick. Okay, but in the meantime, we just want to prepare, we just want to get ready for what's still coming and how to get out of it and bounce back out of it real quick. So this is like Ari said, this is not to scare anyone. This is more of just preparing to respond and plan ahead, and also be able to bounce back really quick. And it's going to present a lot of opportunities for every one of us. So if you're ready, you'll be able to take advantage of the opportunity that is coming. So that's what we want to prepare for, just for everybody to be ready. Because yes, you might have lost a lot of money now, or you may be losing money now, but the goal is that for us to recoup, as most losses as possible, so that we can bounce back. Okay, so we'll be having question and answer after. I'm just going to run through it real quick so that we can allow enough time for question and answer. Okay.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add one more thing to what Afolabi was saying. In working together with Afolabi and getting this all developed out for you guys, it was very heartening to see that there is this perspective of there is going to be a lot of opportunity. That was something that I was very surprised to see, that it isn't, that this call isn't just about damage control. It's about seizing an opportunity that actually has been presented. So I found that very interesting, and going along in the presentation, you'll see what is meant by it. I think this is a real opportunity to completely change what the trajectory of your business is for the better. So I was very actually excited and hopeful when I looked through the slide deck yesterday.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. So it's not to scare anyone, but just help us, okay? To fail to prepare is almost to prepare to fail, especially if you make your products in China. There's going to be a lot of opportunities. You might never have heard this said anywhere else, but I'll dive more into it. It's kind of funny, so I like to laugh a lot. So some of the things you might find in the slide may be down to earth, but they're for real. I just want to run through a little bit about myself so that we can get into the real deep stuff. Well, I enjoy haggling. I like negotiating prices. I mean, growing up in Nigeria, West Africa, I used to follow my mom to the market, and everything is about haggling. Everything is about negotiations. So in the next few slides, you're going to see me talk a lot about negotiating. It's going to be one of your fiercest weapons to use in bouncing back. You would have to renegotiate. You would have to do some things that you normally wouldn't do before with your supplier. I hope your supplier isn't watching this webinar now, because we're gonna, I'm gonna tell you some other things that you can do to really make more money when the market is going back up. Okay, now it's down, but our goal is that when it's rising, we can catch on the wave and just ride with it. Okay. So I'm obsessed with finding things. I just love finding things. I'm one of those guys that if I lose a sock or something, I could be looking in the refrigerator to find my sock or something. So I drive my wife crazy a lot when I'm looking for things. I'm always looking at weird places to find stuff. So that's why I enjoy sourcing. I really, to me, it's a game, that I really enjoy. All right, so I have an office, a fully staffed office in China. We have administrative office in Hong Kong, and I'm based here in Pennsylvania. So, and I just go back and forth, you know, sometimes. So let me go back to my other slide. Sorry, I missed it. I went too far. Okay, so I've been able to help a lot of brands to launch and to scale really fast because of the pricing and the kind of logistical setup that we have in place. Most of these brands have really been able to gain traction and, you know, do a lot, you know, 7 figures easily. And I've, you know, made a lot of mistakes. I've helped develop products, you know, so I'm a product developer, not a sourcing agent. There's a huge difference between a sourcing agent and a product developer. A sourcing agent is just, you're just like a transaction to a sourcing agent. It's not, I'm not against sourcing agents. I'm just saying they are more transactional, the way they deal with their clients. They just ask you, what do you want? And you tell them what you want. Even though what you want might not be the best manufacturing practice, they don't say anything. They don't correct you. They don't introduce new ways or better ways of doing things. Whereas if you have a sourcing agent or somebody that has a knowledge of product development, they will tell you, well, this is a better way to do it to save money. So that's a little difference between sourcing agents and a developer. So enough about myself. Let's go on to the next slide. This is just a rough overview of different services that I do in my businesses: product sourcing and repricing. Many people really don't do repricing these days, but that's where most of your money most of your profit might come from with these bouncing back strategies that we're going to put in place. You know, freight cost negotiations. Some, you know, many of us, we don't even negotiate our freight. We just ask the forwarder, or you just ask your supplier and say, oh, you know, find me a shipping whatever, and they just give you any price. And I see people paying $450, $500 per CBM. Sometimes I'm like, are you crazy? How can you spend this much money on shipping? And, you know, now that Amazon is biting more into our margin, this is the time to really put on your negotiations gloves and just, you know, go into the negotiations mode. So we do Chinese trademark. We'll talk about that in the future, inspections and monitoring. We'll talk about that in the slides next, you know, checking, soft price checking, savings finder. You know, if I look at your invoices, I could easily tell if you're spending too much money on either product or shipping or whatever. But, you know, so these are all some of the products, services I do. Let's dive in. I'm excited. So finally, some good news. Right now, as at yesterday, there's only been like 13 new cases in China in the last 10, 12 days. So that's good news. So it's on the decline in China. Unfortunately, you know, in other parts of Europe and the US, it's not so good, but we're going to get out of it. So it's just a matter of time. These things come and they go, but you just want to be prepared, okay? All right, 70% of workers are back to work in China. Most of the sales reps that you probably talk to in China, they're back working from home. Factory workers are on rotational basis. That means China is controlling how many people would come to the factory, the facility. So they would divide it into mornings and afternoons and evening shifts. So that's how they're able to control the crowd at the moment. So production is, I would say production is back to normal in China. Many factories still have backlog of orders from 2019. And this is another little one that I'm sorry to say, but it's a supplier's market at the moment. What do I mean by that? So if you happen to be using a supplier that is really good, and he has backlog of orders, he probably wouldn't want to renegotiate pricing. So this is not the time for you to negotiate with that supplier, because he's full. He has everything in his plate now, so he wouldn't even look at you. But there's a back way around it. There's a back channel. We'll go into that later. But this is a perfect timing to find a backup supplier who is hungry. Those are smaller factories that they're hungry for your business, and you'll be able to cut a lot of deals with them. Okay, so in terms of shipping and logistics, ocean freight are now like twice the price. You see cargoes going to LA for $2,400 now instead of like $950, $1,000. Now it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to book and confirm your ocean. If air freight is a little worse, it's about 3 times the price, but it's going to go down. It's just the uprising. That's okay. It's going to come down very soon. I'll give you 3 to 6 months. It's going to be on the decline for all these prices. So don't freak out because of all this ocean and air freight. They're going to come down. They're just normal thing. Go up, but they will come down. So cargoes take longer to get to their final destinations as well, because many routes have been canceled. So most of these ship and vessels, they have to stop in more places before they get to the final destination. So if you see your cargo taking longer than usual, please don't panic. It's just because the routes are just, they're suspending some routes and canceling some routes and doing all those things. And that's why the air cargo is also very high now, because most of the layovers have been suspended. So a lot of bigger companies could afford to book and take over a whole cargo plane, whereas smaller sellers like us might not be able to, but it will still come down. Okay, it will still come down. So if you're using FedEx or DHL, they might reject your parcel if it's under the medical supplies category, because they're giving first come, first served basis attention to medical supplies that actually are needed in the US and maybe European hospitals to take care of people that are affected with the virus. Okay. All right, what to expect in the US and the Europe? Now, as you can see, China is on the decline with the virus, and then US and Europe and the European countries have picked it up, sadly. So what do we expect here in the US and Europe? It's basically a no-brainer. There will be congested ports. There will be congestion in most of our seaports because they will be running like a skeletal schedule. So you can imagine a single vessel carrying containers. They pick up like 25 to 40,000 containers on them. So you have, let's say you have 700 or 800 of those ships coming from China, each one carrying 30,000 containers on them. Of course, there will be congestion if they all hit the port of Los Angeles or they hit the port of New York almost at the same time, and people are not working in these ports. There will be congestion, but it's going to slowly clear out. There will be delays in customs, so that most of the goods we shipped might take a while for it to be all cleared up. And as you can tell, like Amazon announced yesterday, they're shutting down some of the receiving in the FBA warehouses. It's the same thing. Once the ship comes and unloads, to receive them into FBA warehouses, there will be delays in our FBA warehouses, which tells us we have to factor in. So if you're using a software like SoStocked, I'm using that. You will have to adjust. Maybe Chelsea will show us later down the road how, or send us a link on how to adjust the your turnaround times for shipping, so that we can factor in all these delays, okay? Another major thing is there will be a product defect will be higher because China is kind of rushing everything now so that they can make money, so that they can recoup all the monies they lost during the Chinese New Year and the corona outbreak in China. So they also want to recoup, so they will be rushing. They will be rushing. I guarantee you that they will be rushing all the products just so that they can take in more orders. So this is a time you should schedule maintenance or inspection or monitoring for your products so that you can reduce your order defect rate, especially if you're doing electronics and products that might have like dirt or smudge or whatever on them, something that can make you get 1-star reviews or whatever. You don't want to get that now. We want to stay away from getting bad reviews on your listing. So please make sure you do product monitoring or inspection like a week before your goods are picked up by the container at the factory. Now, higher priorities are being given to containers carrying medical supplies into the US and EU. Okay, with all this being said, I think there's a windfall coming. I strongly believe there is a windfall coming, and we want to take advantage of this windfall. Yes, we're losing money one way or the other. If you haven't lost any money yet because you had excess inventory, luckily you had excess inventory that you put into FBA, good for you. But there is a windfall coming. That means there is a season of prosperity, season of profiting coming. We just have to be better prepared, and these are the things we want to do to be ready. It says pandemics come and go. This corona craziness will only last a few months, but the aftermath will present the greatest opportunities for well-prepared sellers to crush it in 2020. I call this season the windfall. Will you be ready? All right. So 11 no-brainer acts you should apply now to rake in serious profits after corona. Some of them are kind of funny, but they are for real. Please take them seriously because it's going to be some of your fiercest weapon. Number one, lock out your competitors. What that means is you should put in your order with your supplier for like the next 10 months. So if you sell 300 pieces a month of a product, you should order like 5,000 pieces and space it out over 10 months. Chinese factories, they operate on first come, first served basis. So you should, once you give them like a 10-month plan, they will guarantee your spot on the production line. Okay, that's a way. So a bird in a hand is better than 10,000 birds on a tree. So a Chinese factory likes that you are giving him a confirmed order. Okay, you give him a confirmed order. That's money in hand for him. He will save your spot. That's a way to lock out your competitors from getting into the production line because you're acting faster than all of them, okay? So let's lock out the production line on our behalf. And this will guarantee that all your orders are finished on time, they're not rushed, and they're shipped on time, okay? That's number one. Number two is finance your orders with China's money. All right. I use this a lot. I've been using these for maybe 3, 4, 5 years now for some brands. And what it is you can negotiate with your supplier based on your Amazon's bi-weekly pay schedule. Another thing that would happen is the Chinese government will start dumping cash into the economy with an effort to stabilize or recoup from this coronavirus. It's really hurt the Chinese economy. So what they're going to start doing is they'll start dumping money into that economy, giving the suppliers some sort of financing to help them boost their production. You and I should be able to tap into that money. And the way to do it is to tell your supplier, hey, we've been working together for so long, for the past 3 years. You all know that coronavirus hit the US and, business was slow. But let's work out a deal. How about I send you a bi-weekly payment plan so that you will be sending products to me and I will be paying in tranche every other week. Surprisingly, most suppliers accept this plan. So let's say you get paid $10,000 every pay period on Amazon. You can be sending them $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 or whatever based on your cash flow bi-weekly, and they will keep manufacturing for you and sending products to you. I do it a lot and it works. Another thing you can do with them is you could tell them that you want to, some people prefer monthly payments, honestly. And you just look at something that will not hurt you. Whatever payment amount that will not hurt you is what you should negotiate. Do not try to trick your supplier because it's going to backfire. It's just something that you can live with, I've had suppliers send me products, 3 months worth of products, without paying a dime. I paid it over a period of time and they're okay with it because they like to keep their production line going. So if they have a product that is selling a lot, you're helping them keep their production line going. They're getting help from the Chinese government, so you're tapping from that stimulus plan in short. All right, let's go to the third one. So increase your orders by 20% if you can. Because your competitors will run out of stock. They will run out of stock. I guarantee you that. Most people will run out of stock because they don't know the strategy we're talking about here. So in order to pick up all the pieces that they leave behind, all the orders that they, when they run out of stock, you just calculate like 20% more that you're going to pick up as a windfall from your competitors, and that's an opportunity for you to also raise your price to even make more when all your other competitors run out of stock. Okay. Again, this slide will be made available, at the end. So don't worry if I'm going too fast. Okay. All right. Negotiate your shipping rates. I said in the beginning that many people just go on to, I don't want to mention any, shipping company, but many people just go into some freight, online instant freight quoting company, and they just punch in, the origin and destination, and they get the shipping price and they go with whatever price they give them. Everything is negotiable. Even your shipping price, it's negotiable. This is the time to ship with a bulk shipper. I can help you with that. So you have to send me a mail privately so I can help you with that, or go to Honu Worldwide to help with that. But you can negotiate your shipping. I see people paying ridiculous prices in shipping. It's unbelievable. And I say, why are you paying this? I say, I don't know. That's what the forwarder gave me. Or that's what the shipper gives me. Or that's what my supplier gave me. Never let your supplier don't let your supplier book your shipping for you. It's a no-no. Your supplier is not a shipper. He's not a forwarder. He shouldn't be messing with shipping. You should negotiate your shipping. If you need help with that, We can always help you, okay? This is a time we need, when we're recouping from these losses, we need every area to be able to make money. You know, if you can pick up $3,000 in shipping, so be it. If you can pick up 10 grand in just renegotiating your prices, so be it. We need you have to strike hard when it's hot, because this is an opportunity to do this windfall, and shipping is a major thing. I see people paying too much. I think they're paying too much in shipping. So if you need help with that, we can help you out, because this bites into your profit, and it just feels weird with the kind of money people are paying for shipping. All right, let's go to the next one. Ship your restock earlier. I would say you add about 6 weeks to your FBA restock now, because think about it. If the shipping is being delayed, if the customs is being delayed, and larger, you're competing with large companies like Apple and Samsung. These are people that can buy up a whole ship and fill up their products with a whole ship, right? So these are the kind of people we're competing with. They're also feeling the heat. So it's not just you, it's everybody. So I would say for all FBA restock, you know, I say you back it up 6 weeks and start sending it ahead of time. If you're sending it out of China, please send it ahead of time, okay? All right, let's go to 6. We talked about inspection. You have to minimize your defect rates by doing inspections and monitoring, because China will rush your order. I guarantee you. They will rush your order. You just have to, in order for us to not have a bunch of 1-star reviews, please make sure you do your inspection, because if your competitors don't do inspection just because they're trying to save money, what happens is that if you do inspections and your products are so good, everything is up to par, you're going to get more ranking than all of them. You're going to get more reviews than all of them. You're going to get more sales than all of them. So I see inspection differently. Inspection is a weapon. It's not just because you're trying to avoid having defect rate. I think it's also a weapon. It's also a way of telling your supplier that I'm watching you. Okay, I'm watching you, because he knows you can pull an inspection on him any day, anytime. So he will take your orders seriously if he knows that you do inspections from time to time. Okay. All right. Number 7. Oh, Prime Day and back to school. I would say to ship out all your Prime Day order by April 30. April 30, ship it out, because it's going to take about 2 months with all this delay. It's going to take about 2 months to hit US ports. So May 30, June 30, before Amazon clears it into the inventories, another 2 to 3 weeks. So you're approaching July, right? So you only have about 2 to 3 weeks of grace period before it actually gets put into inventory on all of Amazon's warehouses. So let's ship out all our Prime Day and back to school by April 30, okay? And there's a place to adjust that in your inventory system. If your inventory system don't have stuff like that, you know, I would really recommend SoStock to do that. There's a place, maybe Chelsea can send us videos of how to do that, so you can adjust all those things, okay? All right.
I just want to jump in. First of all, let you know, Afolabi, this is awesome. I'm taking notes. I'm going to rewatch this myself probably like 3-4 times.
Yeah, you haven't seen this presentation.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
I've been working on other stuff, but this is really good. And I hope everybody on the call, I don't want to cut you off, stop you, but you know, everyone on the call, like give them some love in the chat box, because this is good stuff. All right, carry on.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Another one I want to do now, this is a very funny one. Okay, so this is another time to take advantage of your supplier's warehouse. Many people don't know that you can actually store your goods in your supplier's warehouse. I do it all the time. Even though I have a network of warehouses all over China and in the US, some 3PLs in the US, but I would say your first destination for warehousing is your supplier's facility. Your supplier can help you store your goods temporarily, and then you can pick it up as you need it. Most suppliers will allow 3 months of storage, okay? So use it to your advantage, and if you need way more, then you can reach out to us, and then we can find a way, find you a warehouse that is closest to where your supplier is, so you can do a short-term storage. It's very cheap to do short-term storage in China, or we can do here in the US based on whether you're in East Coast or West Coast or the Midwest. We can always find a warehouse for you to put your products temporarily, because Amazon's long-term storage is very, very, very high. Another way you can talk your supplier into helping you use his facility as your warehouse. Don't tell him that. Don't tell him that you want to use his facility as your warehouse. Just say something like, "Hey, I'm going to give you a large order, but I'm not ready to pick everything up on time. I'm not ready to pick everything up just yet. So I'm going to give you the large order, and I'll be picking them up little by little." In most cases, they would allow you to do that, and it's free, okay? They won't charge you for it. So use it to your advantage. That would save you a lot of money with Amazon's long-term storage fees, okay? Number 9. Yeah, we've been talking about this a while, but let me dive deeper into it. Lower your cost of goods by finding backup suppliers. So if you found your current supplier on Alibaba, there is a huge chance that you're overpaying by up to 30%. That's my findings. I've been doing this for a long time. I like Alibaba. It's just the people on Alibaba, there's a special skill, there's a special way of relating with suppliers on Alibaba, because you're seen as a foreigner. They're looking at your profile, they're looking at your Alibaba profile to kind of segment you, to see what kind of pricing they're going to give you and what kind of quality they're going to give you, believe it or not. So if you're listening to this and you're in a maybe developing country or a third world country, China has different quality standards. But anyway, so if you found your supplier on Alibaba or any sourcing website, I would say you're paying, there's still enough room to lower your cost. I've seen just last week, someone had reached out to me wanting to buy some special device that would sell a lot during this coronavirus thing, and he found it for about $12.70 on Alibaba, and I was able to get it for $8.50. So you can see the difference is huge, how much you can save. Now, this person is going to probably buy 20,000 pieces. $12.70 to $8.50, that's over $4. $4 times 20,000 pieces, that's $80,000. Easy in your pocket.
That's crazy.
But, yeah. This is still last week. This is fresh. So you can pick up a lot of savings by just doing that. And now that Chinese sellers are competing with everyone, so you're competing with your factory, right? You're competing with your factory nowadays. Your factories are also selling alongside on Amazon. They are getting it for $8. You are getting it for $12. Who do you think is going to win at the end of the day? So now it's the time to start getting the same price Chinese locals are getting. We'll take the game back to them and say, look, when I'm sourcing, I don't speak to any of my suppliers in English. They don't even know I'm from the US when I'm sourcing products, for all the brands I source. That's one of the ways I'm able to get really, 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 really super low prices, because we talk local to local. right? One of the things that really that makes me mad sometimes is if you go to China today and you want to pick up a bottle of Coke, let's say it's 10 RMB. Just because you're a foreigner, they're not going to sell it for more than 10 RMB to you because you're going to the grocery store to pick it up in China. But if you want to buy the same bottle of Coke on Alibaba, just because you're a foreigner, it's going to be 13 bucks.
Yeah, and RMB is the Chinese currency for anyone that doesn't know.
Yep. Unfortunately, so this is the time to really strike hard to renegotiate your prices or reprice. There's a back way around it. You can shoot me an email or something, and I can take a look at what you have so that I'll see how we can help you lower your prices, okay? Number 10, start buying in RMB and ex-work price. All right, why? Why do I say this? So I'm on my phone here and I'm watching the currency rate. So if you're buying in China and you're not watching the currency rate, you should start watching the currency rate, okay? I'll explain to you why now. So
Afolabi, can you explain X works too?
Okay.
For anyone who doesn't
know. Okay, so let's do that first. X work is, so your Chinese supplier, especially if you see them on Alibaba, they will either give you an FOB price or an X work price. They will always push for FOB. FOB means free on board. That means they will help you transport your goods from their factory to the port. Okay, let's do some math. Give me some time to let us punch in some numbers, okay? We want to rake in profit, so we might as well do math. So let's say you're buying your product. Your supplier gave you an FOB price of $1.50, right? That means your supplier, after he has finished manufacturing your product, is going to help you transport it to the seaport in China to take it to wherever it's going, right? Let's say it's charging you $1.50 per product, FOB. Surprisingly, if I go in and I say to the supplier, I want X work price. That means I don't need your help transporting my goods from your facility to the seaport. I'll pick it up by myself. So I need X work price. It might quote me $1.25 X work, right? So I'm picking up 25 cents for just getting X work price, right? Now, watch this. If I'm ordering 10,000 pieces of that product and I'm saving 25 cents from FOB to X work, so 25 cents, that means I'm saving $2,500 on a $10,000 order, right? But guess what? What do you think the price of transporting your goods from the factory to the seaport, what do you think it cost? I don't think it's more than $250. So your supplier would have made $2,250 off of you, just in the difference of FOB price and X work price.
Painful. Oh boy.
Right?
When you've been in business for however many years we all have,
Yeah, don't beat yourself up about it. Don't blame yourself. You didn't know. Now you know. Okay. Now you know. So one thing, you have to buy X work. Now, if you go back to your supplier and tell them, oh, now I want to buy X work, they'll be like, no, we can't sell to you. Okay, whatever. We'll give you 10 cents or 5 cents off. Because now they know you know their game, right? There's a way around it. We might have to force them into X work, or we might have to find a backup supplier and use the price from the backup supplier to renegotiate with the current supplier. There are several ways to do it. So since this is not, it's not really the purpose of this webinar, but shoot me an email or something, or contact Chelsea or something there. We'll talk about it. So the R&D, let's talk about the R&D a little bit. So I said in the beginning that China is going to start dumping money into the economy. What they're going to do is they want to stabilize their trade. So they're going to, you didn't hear this from me, but they're going to probably devalue that currency so that a dollar can buy more RMB. Okay. Once a dollar starts buying more RMB, a trade will shift from other countries back to China.
Interesting.
What that means is, if a product is being manufactured in the US for cost of production, let's say $3, if the Chinese RMB is gaining value, then it's not going to be worth it to make that product in China anymore. You might as well just make it in the US, because the currency rate in China is almost, the cost of production in China is almost getting equal to the US. So China, what China does is it devalues this currency so that the US dollar can buy more. And once that happens, the trade shifts back to China. It's the same thing Saudi Arabia does. Anytime the cost of producing oil in the US is getting low, Saudi Arabia dumps oil into production.
Right, which is what they're doing.
That forces the cost of production in the US to rise, and it's not going to be worth it anymore to produce oil in the US. Everybody goes back to Saudi. It's the same thing that China does. Ari, you're going to say something?
Oh, I just said that's exactly what's happening right now with the oil.
Yep. Yeah. So it's the same game, right? So let me tell you, at real time now, yuan, RMB, Chinese currency, is going to about 7.1. That means it started to be devalued already. It's happening already. Because before Chinese New Year, it was averaging 6.7. Now it's at 7.1. That means the devaluation has started. That's how China stabilizes its economy. They would bring it down so that everybody comes back to buy. So this is the time for you and I to start buying in RMB as well, because your $1 can now buy more products. Okay. All right, the last one, inventory tracking. You have to get very diligent about tracking your inventory. This seller space is going to be doing some very odd and interesting things. Your inventory strategies are going to have to change. It's no longer business as usual. Therefore, you have to be smarter and more detailed on the board about tracking your inventory and sales and velocities. If you don't have a good system in place, then you can diligently maintain, now is the time to look for one. So now we have to start watching inventories like a hawk. Remember that the days coming are so uncertain. As each of your competitors are running out of stock, you're going to start seeing spikes. And once you start seeing spikes, you have to respond immediately. Immediately. Once a spike starts going, because of your competitors dropping off, you will see spike. Once the spike starts going, you have to trigger a purchase order. Or you have to call for your buffer inventory. You have to call for your cushion inventory, wherever it's sitting, whether it's sitting in your supplier's warehouse or it's sitting in a third-party, logistics center in China or in the US. You have to trigger that product to be brought before you run out of stock. So now we have to watch more of the inventory, how it's moving, the velocity is moving, and you have to keep tweaking it as it's moving. Chelsea, is there like a video on how to do this that you can?
Yeah, we have videos on, for SoStocked on how to do it. And I've been talking to some people recently who've just been, kind of being onboarded to our SoStocked software. And one of the things I have been telling them is that across the board, that they should be shortening their velocity averages. So if you're used to looking at like 180 day, 90 day, 60 day, 30-day average, you might want to across the boards shift to a 30-day, 15-day, 7-day average velocity, so that, because you're gonna, like Afolabi said, you're gonna start seeing competitors running out of stock, and you'll start to get surges. So now your past data and your past sales history is not going to be very helpful to you. This is a completely different age, yep, completely different time, and so all of your normal inventory management kind of habits are out the window. And if you continue to order the same way that you have been ordering, and you don't pay very, very close attention to your inventory, your velocities, and your lead times, and increasing your lead times, those are the points where you can fall down. So you really, really, really need to have your inventory game on lock, so that you can take advantage of all of these opportunities that will be presenting themselves. Because I guarantee you, other people are not going to be putting these steps in place, and it grants you a huge opportunity.
Yep. Because remember, everything is like a domino effect. Everything falls back to each other. If you increase your PO, right, that means you're going to have an excess 20% buffer sitting somewhere, whether it's in your supplier warehouse or it's anywhere else it is in. Now you can easily push to get it anytime you want. You can easily push to get it anytime you want. And if you, I don't know if there are drop shippers on the call. Do we have drop shippers on the call as well?
I'm not sure. If you do any drop shipping, go ahead and comment in the chat. I know we've got a lot of private labelers. We've got wholesalers. Not sure if we have drop shippers, but there are going to be people who are watching the call afterwards who may be.
Okay. Another thing to do with that is, I know that drop shippers, they rarely look at prices of products. All they do is they go to AliExpress or DHgate, get whatever price they see there and just set up on Shopify and everything. But you have to realize that all these AliExpress people, they are not the real factory. So there's a way for drop shippers to really make a lot. Or even if you're doing FBMs, there are some FBMs that are being drop shipped from China as well. So if you're into stuff like that you're setting up for as an FBM, if your FB ever runs out and you want to set up as an FBM, you might be able to also cut your delivery time, by half, and the price of the product. You might be able to do that. I have something called the price checker. You can email me or something after. I might be able to find you, integrate you into a price checker system that we have, whereby whatever product you find on AliExpress or find on Alibaba, just shoot us the link, and then we will go to the local market to get you the same product for, sometimes we get 20-30% off of this product, and then we will plug you into a bulk shipper that would help you move it even faster to your consumer. So that's another thing that you can consider.
That's incredible. Can you imagine saving 25 or 30%?
Yep. Especially with the duties nowadays, like that's, your entire duty cost sometimes. We know that our duties went from 0 to 25%, which is another thing we're going to be, in future webinars, we will be talking about how to reduce your duties.
Yeah. Just so people don't go blank, I'm really trying to make sure we don't go past any terminology that we don't understand. Or what is FDM?
FBM, fulfilled by merchant.
Right. Okay. So Tim Mooney thought you said FDM. So FBM is fulfilled by merchant, Tim, as opposed to fulfilled by Amazon. FBA.
Yes.
Yes.
Something that Chelsea said before on drop shippers is there is a code that you could bring in your hair shipment into the US kind of duty-free, kind of, as long as it fulfills some parameters, as long as it's less than $800 in value per product, you may be able to bring in hair shipment, and as long as it's going directly to the consumer, not coming to you first and then going to the consumer. If it's shipping straight to consumer, then you might be able to bring it in somewhat duty-free.
Yeah, I think that's the subject of our next call 2 weeks from now is, you know, this whole mess with duties and the Trump-China trade wars. Or, you know, that was the biggest thing, you know, in terms of inventory, hot topic before coronavirus came through. So we definitely want to be addressing that. So our next call, we're going to be talking about duties, how to look at, you know, whether you are, you know, can ethically or legally kind of shift what duties you are paying. I know personally for us, within the span of about 6 months, we went from paying 0 duties to paying 25% duties. And then when you're looking at products that are, you know, $11-12 a unit retail, that is a big chunk of your cost. So I know some other people are hurting the same way. That's why we're bringing up that topic. We'll have the link to that at the end of this. We're wrapping up. We're getting towards the end. But yeah, that's definitely another way to save some money.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that when it comes to duties. You don't want to miss it. Please tune in for the next one. You don't want to miss that. That's that's a deal breaker for some products. You know, if you don't know how to classify the duties very well.
Hey, Afolabi, one of the questions I'm seeing out there is, especially dealing with Europe, how all the borders are closed, Italy and Spain, the army is controlling borders, ports, etc. Do you got any insight in regards to Europe, if people are putting in orders, or how any of the logistics, supply chain, etc. is going on over there?
Well, what I see, yes, people are still putting in orders. Another thing I see in Europe is that now European sellers are now having enough time to research more products to add to their stores. But yes, Europe is going to have congestion as usual, but don't let all these things stop you.
So you're saying still put in the orders, and it's going to be what it's going to be?
Yep, put in. Don't let it stop you. Don't wait till the end and then start reacting when it's too late.
Okay. All right.
Cool. Do we have any more on this inventory tracking page, Chels?
Afolabi, yeah, he's got more slides.
The shipping schedule. So we're going to have this shipping schedule to you on this slide. When you're for Prime Day and back to school, you have to order like 2-3 weeks ago, and you have to ship it by April 30 so that it can arrive in Amazon by June 30. For the Q3 inventory, you have to order now and ship it out by May 30 so that we can receive it in FDA by August 15. For Q4, you have to order by June 15, ship by July 30th, and receive it by September 30. This is just for us to be safe. It's better to be safe, okay? And for Q20, 2021, so you have to factor in election, you have to factor in Chinese New Year, you have to factor in long-term storage free on Amazon. So that's why we put the order by August 30 and to ship by November 15 so that it can hit Amazon's warehouse January 10.
Yeah, you also have national holiday in October.
Yeah, you don't want to get involved in all the rush shipping for Chinese New Year. That's when the shipping cost is so high.
Yeah.
So make sure you ship all your goods by November, latest December. Let every ship leave. All your inventory for Q1, let them leave by November so that you don't pay extra shipping and face the rush season during the Chinese New Year and all this election. We don't know.
Yeah, this is gold right here. I've never seen this simple chart. And by the way, guys, this is regardless of how much volume you sell, it doesn't matter, because the production time and the shipping time is what Afolabi's talking about. And so whether you're selling 100 units a month or 10,000 units a month, your order by date and ship by date, more or less should still follow the schedule. I think this is great.
Thank you. Do we have more? That's it. Over to you, Chelsea.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, if you've got questions, I got a few questions that have come through. So I'm going to go through a couple of those questions. And then if you have questions, please go ahead and start typing them in the chat, and we'll get those answered.
Chelsea, you want to put it back on speaker view now so they can see us?
Yeah, I want to make sure that you guys all see the, first of all, the contact data. And then if you can go one slide over, will also get you the link to sign up for the other webinars that we have going on. So the other webinars that we have going on, we have our Trump tariffs webinar, and then we have, so that's going to be 2 weeks from now, how to know if you're paying too much. It'll help you to determine whether you're in the right, you're being categorized with the right code. Because if you're in the wrong code, you might be paying more duties than you have to. Maybe you're paying 25% duties and you could be paying 10 or something like that. So it'll help you to analyze that yourself. I know that, sometimes you ask your supplier or ask your supply chain manager, and they're like, no, we can't do anything about it. But, that might not be the case. They might not know exactly how to look at things. Then we have shipping hacks that save you thousands. So that's just generally, there are some things that Afolabi has learned over the years in negotiating and in working in China. And these are his, major hacks that really increase your bottom line by just the way that you kind of change how you're dealing with China in general. And then how to effectively negotiate with suppliers will be after that. So that's every 2 weeks we'll be rolling out these this webinar series. And then next week I will be talking about some inventory secrets. There's essentially 3 things that a lot of people overlook analyzing when they're looking at their sales and their sales velocity, and it could really affect your orders, either over ordering or under ordering or stocking out. And so these are 3 top things that I always tell everyone that they need to be implementing in their businesses. And we kind of take a look at what the cost is of not implementing them, and you really get a real eye-opening look at how much money you could be throwing away. One of the things that we think about is we're always looking at how to rank, how to increase our our ranking, how to increase our traffic and all of that, but we don't really dig into our actual inventory, our supply chain. We don't dig into it nearly enough, and a lot of the money that you're losing, and a lot of I call it death by paper cuts, is coming from your supply chain. So we're going to be talking about that next week with that link below, sostock.com/inventory-secrets. And then all of these webinars with Afolabi are sostock.com/seller secrets. So go ahead and jump over to there and register for those. And then so right now I'm going to be jumping into our final questions. All right, so we've got, let's see, Julie had said, what is the best way to contact you for service? So we shared the email there. So you can go ahead and reach out to Afolabi at his
We'll also be sending out links and everything so people can go directly to contact all the people involved, especially Afolabi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and be sure to mention that you saw him on this call. He may give you a special deal or something like that. Treat you nice.
Yep, sure.
Yeah, and then let's see. Eilette says, how to source in local market as a local. So I think Dimitri had the same question, trying to understand some examples of how would you pay like a local.
Yeah, or how do you pay with your sourcer in RMB if they're currently paying in USD? Do they just go out and just say, hey, I want to pay you in this certain currency, or what is the best practice of going about that?
Well, so buying as a local just means that you approach your supplier as a Chinese company. Honestly, if you approach them as a foreigner or a foreign company, they will still sell to you as a foreigner. So what I do is, because I have a company in China, I go to source my product Chinese to Chinese company instead of a US to Chinese company, right? I go, it's almost like going undercover, if you want to put it that way, and just go and negotiate that way. If you go back to your supplier and say you want to start paying RMB, he might not agree for two reasons. The first reason is he probably doesn't, you probably need to send, he doesn't want to receive a Chinese local currency from overseas to his account, because there are these suppliers have different accounts in China. Some only have dollar accounts, some only have Hong Kong accounts, some have local accounts. So we use local accounts to pay to local accounts in China. So that's why it's easier for us to all the orders that I have for different brands, I'll send the money in bulk. And once it gets to China, then we split it and distribute it to all the suppliers. So your supplier may not, he will know that you're onto his game, honestly, and give it a shot. Tell him, let me see what you can tell him. If you tell him you want to pay an RMB price, what he's going to do is probably just the same amount the same price he's been charging you, you just convert it to to RMB and say, okay, here it is, no difference. But I would say send me an email so that I can take a look at your situation and see if we're able to force your supplier into an RMB price by using another supplier to do the negotiation. So I can find you a backup supplier and use the code from that backup supplier to force this existing supplier into the same thing, or we can just use a new supplier and buy cheaper from a new supplier.
I had a question. That's a really good solution. On that same line, I had a question in that if we, say we're using you as an interim to pay RMB at a lower price. When you mentioned paying biweekly or paying monthly, what that costs, when I send wires to China, it costs me $40 every time. If we're using an intermediary like you, and you're here in the US, would we be able to avoid that wire fee? So then you're saving
exactly
the wire fee and you're saving on, see, that's cool, because I go, that's a great thing in theory, but if I'm paying $40 every time, I want to send as much money as possible. But if I'm not paying the wire fees, then, heck, I'll split it up all day long.
Yeah, a lot of companies, a lot of brands use my service because I buy currency in bulk and push it to China without paying a single dime in transfer fees. So if you're paying bi-weekly, it's very right, that's $80. And if you have multiple suppliers that you're sending monies to, it can quickly add up. So another thing you can do, you can just, I can help you by doing the bulk payment straight into China and then pay your supplier when the money gets to China. That way you save money as well. So yeah, that's a good question, Chelsea. That's good.
Okay, great. So we'll move forward on these. Let me see. I did have a question from someone who wrote in earlier before we started. She said she has a, sales for the Halloween industry, how do you think coronavirus will affect Halloween sales? I think we answered this question in that you need to, your orders need to go in sooner. I think the entire webinar kind of answered that question, unless you have anything additional to add.
Well, let's go back to that. Can you go back to the former slide where we have the thing?
Yeah, I think you
have
control of the slide. So
okay, here, right here. So you would, if you're doing Halloween, you will fall on the, more on the Q4.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to try to ship by, what's that date? I'm trying to, is this thing on my page? 30th July, is that July? Yeah, July 30. You have to ship by July 30.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And how does it affect? I don't think it's going to affect, I don't think this Corona thing is going to affect Halloween, honestly. I would say just continue to go on your plan, just do it. And even allow for 20%, because many people are saying maybe it would affect Halloween and they're going to draw back.
Yeah.
You don't draw back, because when everybody draws back now, it's an opportunity for you to rake in the profit when everybody's afraid.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. All right. And so let's see. The next question, we had a comment from Paul. He said Afolabi is on fire, with a lot of little fire emojis. And we have Afolabi. Where in PA are you located?
In Allentown, PA.
Okay, cool.
I'm in Allentown. Love that song.
Billy Joel.
Hey,
yes,
can
I have a warehouse in Allentown.
What percentage has increased to ship from China?
What percentage?
Yeah, I think you were saying 2 times, like it'll.
Yeah, for ocean 2 times.
Wow. Yeah.
The price right now. For air cargo is maybe 2 to 3 times.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy. Okay.
And they all, for air cargo, they're only giving first priorities to medical supplies.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Right.
so there are some shippers that are able to sneak it out. They take advantage of what we call the overrun. So let's say a plane has a little space left. There are some brokers that do overruns. That means they would fill in that spot. So if you want to carry your goods by air, you might have to send me an email so I take a look at it and see if it may qualify for an overrun, so that we can include it into some of the available spaces on air cargo.
Awesome. So the next question we had was, is it wise to source the materials for the production to our partner company in China ourselves? Is there a chance we are being overcharged? And if so, what are the potential cost savings? So I think he's talking about raw materials.
Yes. Yes. If you have a supplier to sell your raw materials, yes. I do it a lot. So sometimes I do buy the material from Korea and I move it to China, or you can buy from Japan and move it to China, or you can buy from another supplier in China and then move it to your real supplier, especially packaging. So if you're ordering products and your supplier is also supplying the packaging, then you know you're overpaying, because he's going to mark it up. He's going to mark it up. So I would say to order packaging from a separate packaging supplier and have that supplier ship it to your main product supplier. That way you're saving. You can save at least, I've seen savings as much as, maybe 10, 15% in the packaging.
Wow. Yeah, so it sounds like, it's, well, and what you do, you're like, when you were talking to me, you call it an entire audit. Like you look at the purchase orders, you look at the shipping invoices and audit and find all of the different ways that you can save money, which I thought was amazing. Just every single element. And, it's like, kind of like peeling an onion. The more, the more we were talking, the more places we realized we were missing out on money, which I've always heard, I have a friend who has been going to China for years. And I remember he was talking to a friend of mine. She's a really good negotiator, but he was like, we were sitting and we're having breakfast, and he was like, he goes, she was like, oh yeah, and talking about how good she was at negotiating and, in China and stuff. He goes, you get your bottom price, or your bottom price. I am 10 levels deep. Like I am, like, you think you're at the basement, I'm 10 levels below that. And I was like, how is he saving that much money? So I've always found that whatever prices I'm paying are extremely high, and I've always known it, but I've never known how I can actually get around it.
Yeah, because you see, Chelsea, most of the big factories, they're in like very remote areas of China, and they don't have English-speaking people in those factories. And most of them are only producing for the local market. So it's the few educated individuals in China. When I say educated, I mean English. Few English-speaking people in China, they will go to these remote factories and go and get all this product information and severely mark it up on Alibaba. And you think you're talking to the supplier. No, you're not. You're 10 steps higher from what you're talking about, because he's probably getting it from another person. So yes, it's way possible. It's way possible. It's amazing when you peel the onion and peel the layers. It's amazing what the real bottom price is.
Yeah, and we've known that. We know that we are working with a trading company, and we know who our factory is. We just hadn't pulled the trigger because we didn't feel good about the relationship. The communication wasn't there. So it's, if we have someone who can then manage that relationship and get that factory to actually do what we want, that's what our trading company is doing. But I know that they're majorly marking things up, and it's just, it's a matter of, okay, let's actually do, audit the entire business. How much money are we, can we potentially recoup? And I think that every single business, can really open their eyes to that. And
that's by just looking at invoices. So you guys can just, you can try out our audit service. By just looking at your invoices, we're just going to ask for your invoices, your shipping, your product, whatever, packaging, everything. By just looking at all of this, we'll be able to tell you, these are the places you're overpaying. These are the places you could pick up 10 cents here. You could pick up 15 cents here. And by the time you add it up, some people pick up 10, 15,000. I have a guy, I'm going to give him his final pricing of all his products. I think he's going to pick up at least $250,000 to $300,000 a year.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's like,
it moves a lot of volume. And I'm like, look, if I'm able to save you 50 cents or even $1 off of your product, that's an extra $200,000 to $300,000 for you.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot better than the $1,000 check from our stimulus package that we just.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Awesome. Okay, I think we have only a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, I don't know if you already answered it, but one question that came up a couple of times is, you mentioned RMB versus USD.
Yes.
US currency. So are we just supposed to ask our supplier, like, hey, charge me RMB? Like, how does that actually work?
The supplier, in most cases, the moment you ask him for an RMB price, he already knows you're onto his game. He already knows that. So a way to do it is, the way we have been successfully doing it is just to go behind and act as if we're a new buyer of a product, and we will get the price in RMB without linking anything to the current brand. So brands will come to me and say, look, help me see if you can get this cheaper, right? So I would open a whole new inquiry from my China office, and they will contact a supplier or a supplier that is in the same category as your supplier, and we will get the real price in RMB. And then we'll tell you, look, this is the price we got. You could save 11% if you buy in RMB. So we would go back to your supplier and say, look, we'll issue you a PO, not a PO, we'll issue you an invoice and say, this is how much we're buying it. I mean, we're selling it to you. You can take our invoice and go give it back to your supplier and say, look, I found this product cheaper. Do you want to match this price, or you want me to go to another supplier? So in most cases, they will drop their prices.
Yeah, especially if, you know, like we got a comment above, if I'm our second biggest customer. Yeah, if they're the second biggest customer, heck yeah, that would work.
Follow-up question to that, our RMB versus USD is like, what if they don't have a China office? Like someone who's working strictly from the US or from another country that doesn't have any feet on the ground in China, what help could they get to?
The best way is I would tell them to just reach out to me so that I can use my China office to go through the back channel. Right. So anybody that wants to reprice their product or start paying RMB, just send me an email, then we would go through the back channel to reverse engineer it from the other side.
Cool.
And the person who says he's the second largest buyer, I'm sure, I hope you have trademarked your brand in China, because if you are the second biggest account to your supplier, he might have trademarked your logo so that you will not leave him.
Wow. Yeah, it's a different code of ethics over there.
Yeah, that's what the Chinese factories are doing now. They're going around and trademarking US brand names and European brand names. So that's their security, that you will not leave them. So I guarantee you, if you're giving them large orders, they must have trademarked your logo.
Now,
unfortunately.
what does that mean, though, trademarking your logo in China? How would that hurt someone potentially who's only selling, let's say, on Amazon.com, for example?
So if a Chinese factory trademarks your logo in China, they can stop you from exporting out of China in your brand name.
Okay, good. Yeah,
they
open up a whole can of worms.
Yeah, this sounds like a whole other webinar.
Yeah, I know we're going to talk about it more in future webinars, because we can go on and on, but they will stop you from exporting out of China if they own the rights to your logo and your brand name.
Right. Yeah, to be continued.
Yeah.
Question on what about if you're working in smaller quantities, like orders of 300 to 500 units, do you have leverage at all there as well?
Well, it depends on the type of product you're ordering. If you're ordering, if your products are larger items, sure, you still have leverage. If your products are smaller items, that your the typical amount of orders that other buyers give to your supplier is probably 10,000, and you're only ordering 3,000, then you might not really have much of a leverage because you're a small account to that supplier, unless you're buying from like AliExpress or DHgate or whatever. Then I can say, okay, all right, reach out to me, then I'll go straight to the factory to buy the 300 from the factory. So you can still save. It just has to be. We just have to look at the product on a product by product basis.
Right. Cool. Okay, so asks, when are we talking about Chinese trademarks? I just made a note to add that to our webinar series lineup. So we'll probably shift some things around since it is fairly topical. 2 weeks from now, we're talking about Trump tariffs, and then we can probably put trademarks in there right after that, since some of these other things are a little bit less topical, because you want to get that trademark process going right away. So we'll have to kind of talk about it. And then Johnny Freddy says Chinese code of ethics, whatever.
Equals whatever.
Yeah, whatever. That is 100,000 per month, or I'm not sure what that means. Let's see. Is there any way to negotiate better pricing using the tactic about forecasting your inventory full year out? I think that's what you were talking about. That you said 10 months, but a year is the same.
A year is good. A year is also very good. Once you forecast it out like that, once you spread it out like that, the supplier loves that. He will come to the negotiation table with you because he knows that you're going to keep his factory busy. So that's one of the major ways to negotiate. So that's a good one. If you can do a year out, do a year out. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you missed the beginning of the webinar, that's where Afolabi was talking about that. So definitely watch the replay.
Do you need to put a deposit down? Yeah, you just pay them bi-weekly if you can, or pay them monthly. Just pay little by little. Just fulfill your end of the bargain. Chinese factories are very easy to work with. They're very friendly people if you fulfill your end of the bargain. Just don't play games with them. When you say you're going to send money to them. If you are worried about, the wire fees racking up, send me an email. We might have to batch process your payments with a bulk of payments that we are doing. Whichever way, we'll be able to help you out.
Okay, great. So I can see from the comments that everyone just loved this call. It was super valuable. I think that everyone's now completely looking at their business differently and has a little bit of work to do. And I know that Afolabi is available to help with that. We will be sending out links to the webinar, to the slides, as well as some special links to get you connected up with Afolabi, and also with the SoStock software to check that out. Sign up for our other webinars because he will be back and he will have more amazing content to share. So, all right, thanks so much for coming on, Afolabi, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful, go crush it. Let's do it.
Yes.
Stay safe, stay healthy, and be successful.
Yes.
Please.
You guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.